Good morning, everybody, and welcome to The Artist Well. This is our 65th episode, and we've been at this for about a year and a half. And what's interesting is that apart from the live participants, people who join us in the morning like this, there are a lot of people who watch it on the YouTube channel afterwards, on the next couple of days. And this week, we passed the milestone of 30,000 views of our YouTube channel, and I'm absolutely thrilled with that. It's a huge number. I mean, 30,000 in a year and a half is quite remarkable. And so I'd like to thank all the participants, the artists who've contributed to it, and especially those who've been watching all our episodes. It's just great to get that sort of support. So thank you all for that. Now, with the ending of restrictions, if I can give myself a little bit of a plug, for the first time in 2 years, I'm holding a workshop, and this is going to be a portrait workshop specializing in charcoal, and it's using various brand new techniques, which I think will interest a lot of people. So even if you've done a charcoal course with me before, you'll find this quite fascinating. It's going to be over a weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and the date is the 26th and 27th of March, and it's going to be held in the United Arts Club. There's lunch involved, and teas and coffees and all that. It'll be a lovely sociable event, and a nice change to be able to get back together with everybody and enjoy, put our feet up and learn a few things as well. Now, talking about hyperrealism, our guest this morning is Francis Matthews, and he really epitomizes this particular genre with an emphasis on nocturnal streetscapes, which is fascinating. I think you'll really enjoy this. So let's go straight over to Portobello, Dublin, and say hello to Francis. Good morning to you, Francis. How are you?
Good. Good morning, Alan.
Yeah, great.
I'm doing good. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us.
No problem. Yeah.
And you're there in your studio in Portobello.
Yeah. I work where I live now and have for the last few years. So the studio space is quite small. I have my easel just behind me here.
Yeah.
And kind of the paints and palette and stuff just beside it.
Right. Okay. So it's all fairly condensed.
Yeah. It is tight, but I've got good. I'm right beside kind of a balcony and window here, so it's got good natural daylight because it's kind of. I prefer painting by natural light, you know.
So you're right beside the window there.
Yeah.
Are you left-handed?
No, right-handed.
I would have thought that might get in the way then of the light when you're.
There can be a bit of a shadow. Yeah. It depends on how strong the light is coming in. Most of the time it's diffuse enough that there's not too strong a shadow there.
Yes. Very good. So listen, let's talk about the early days. Why did you end up doing this?
Well, when I was younger, my dad was an illustrator, part-time illustrator for the Phoenix magazine, and he painted and drew and made these copper works and stuff as well. So he was quite artistic, and he would show me and my brothers and sisters how to paint and draw when we were younger. So that,
fantastic.
I'd say, kind of instilled the interest in me. Yeah.
Brilliant. And then, so when it came to a choice of career, what did you decide to do?
Well, I studied architecture in university. I was quite interested in that. It had a creative aspect, and there was kind of a scientific aspect as well. There was kind of a rational aspect to it that I was drawn to, and I really enjoyed doing it.
Yes.
But while I was in UCD, a few of the other people I was in class with were interested in painting as well. So we would meet up every once in a while to paint together, and that's where I started to. It was them that showed me kind of basic oil painting techniques.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed architecture, and I still do. But when I finished, I decided to take a year out and to just paint. And if nothing else, I would get better at painting.
So did you actually work in architecture for a while?
A little bit.
Before you took time out?
Just a few months, really, and that gave me some money to kind of start on the
I
year
know.
out.
Yes.
And I every once in a while I'll do a small design job
Oh,
now as
would
well
you?
for
Would you?
friends.
Yes.
Yeah, because
All right.
I still enjoy it. I
Yeah.
still there's a different kind of satisfaction you get from designing something
Yes.
to painting something. There's much more
Yeah.
experiential thing going on. So it
I
is.
know.
I do still like architecture. Yeah.
Sure. But I noticed that any artists who sort of trained in architecture, their love of detail is very apparent,
Yeah, yeah.
especially you.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that
Yeah.
influenced it kind of that
Yeah.
attention to detail and probably the interest in the built environment as well in the city,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
it kind of increased my awareness of that.
Absolutely. So, but you didn't formally train in art as such, in painting.
No,
No.
I suppose just have been doing it myself or with
Mm.
friends or with my dad over the years, and then I did a week long oil painting, life painting course in the NCAD
Oh, did you?
one
Oh, right.
summer as well. So that showed
Mm.
some more basic oil painting techniques too.
Yes.
Um, but mostly, yeah, it was myself,
Mm.
and that kind of taken that year. I wanted to improve my
Mm.
painting technique and stuff as
I
well.
know.
So,
And were you always drawn to this sort of nocturnal aspect of the painting?
um, I think it was through studying architecture.
Hmm.
Like everyone that's studying architecture, they'll kind of be drawn to different aspects
Mm.
of it that will influence how they design. And one of the things that I was very interested in designing was light, just
Mm.
kind of the dynamics of light. Um, so yeah, that I think that studying architecture
Mm.
brought that more into
I
focus for
know.
me. And
Yeah.
then just at night, there's a lot of different dynamics going on with light.
Mm.
There's a lot
Mm.
of
Mm.
interesting things going on, and uh, it's just as a higher contrast of things.
Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, it was probably that I was drawn to more, that what's going on with the light at night.
I know. I know. And in order to, inspire you, are you running around in the middle of the night with cameras and
Uh,
sneaking around corners?
well, like a lot of the time, I just take photos with my phone,
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'll always have that on me, and a lot of the time it's just on my way home from a night out. I'll see
Hmm.
something that I like, and I'll start taking photos, and then like take a more scenic route home and
Hmm.
photograph on the way. But
Yeah.
I do go out some evenings as well now to
Specifically.
yeah, specifically to photograph. I'll
Mm.
see some area, I might see some place during the day that I think could be interesting to photograph at night. So I'll go
At
back
night.
and
Yeah.
try it out.
Very
But it's
interesting.
always kind of it's kind of potluck,
Yeah.
whether there's a coincidental element of whether streetlights happen to be in the right place or
I know.
but I'll go back again and again, sometimes to the same place on different nights, maybe after it's been raining or at
Mm.
dusk or dawn and stuff, and try. There's a few places I've gone back to again and again
Hmm.
over years.
And it changes depending on all
Yeah,
sorts of atmospheric
yeah, it
reasons.
changes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
probably I change a little bit as well in kind of
Yes.
what I'm drawn to. So,
And
but
is it right
it
that,
is.
yeah, when you find your subject, do you change it, or are you meticulously,
I've
you know?
probably over the years, I'd
Mm.
say right at the start, I didn't change it at all. But over the years, I've started to change things a little bit more.
Mm.
I'll remove people and moving cars now. I might correct some perspective distortion from the
Yes.
photograph, like kind of
Yes.
lines that are splayed in ways that I don't
Ah.
like. I'll kind of correct them to make it a little more
Mm.
um, ordered in the composition.
I know.
Um,
Yeah.
but then but a few of the more recent ones I've kind of enjoyed those splayed lines. So it depends a little bit on the image what I'll change in it.
I know. I
And
know.
then as I'm painting it as well, I I won't get it exactly like it. I'll
No. Yeah.
so think it will deviate from the
Exactly.
photograph as
Yeah.
I paint it as
Yeah.
well.
Now, there's one thing when we were having a brief chat, because we hadn't met before at all. and I was intrigued by, and that was your nocturnal
Oh, the long
walks,
walks.
yeah, the
Yeah,
long
yeah.
walks.
I've done a few.
Yeah, tell us about those.
Maybe I've done it maybe 3 times.
Yeah.
I had an idea of maybe having an exhibition from one night of walking. So I picked an equinox. So I had 12 hours from dusk till dawn. And I started out around Donabate and walked, at dusk, and walked all night to Sandybound, photographing on the way, and like I had food with me, and it was a slow paced thing,
Yeah.
and it was an enjoyable walk, that one.
But you
'Cause
did one for
I
17 hours.
I did one. I tried a winter solstice one, kind of, so
Yeah.
the longest night of the year, and
Yes.
that one was a bit tougher because it was colder, and but yeah, the last hour of it, like my kind of calf started to swell up a little bit. It was starting to get a little physically demanding by
Yeah.
the 16th hour.
Right.
But it's good kind of seeing different levels of activity,
Yeah.
like at the start of the night, and then fading into nothing, and then starting like bakeries starting up early in the morning, and
Sure.
yeah, no, it's
And
kind of
didn't you pop into the airport for
yeah, that's
brekkie?
where, well, for my lunchtime,
Oh, lunch, was it?
yeah,
Yeah.
I had, well, around 2 in the morning, I was taking breaks,
Oh, sorry.
so
Yes. Yeah.
I would take breaks every whatever hour and a half or something like
Of course.
that,
Yeah.
and then yeah, the airport was a good place to take a seat for half an hour, and take out the sandwich, and then yeah, kept going and taking more photos,
Brilliant.
and like from the each time, like I'd end up with 1,000 or more photos,
Really?
of but I didn't manage to get enough from the one night to make a full exhibition of, which is a pity, but it was still a really
Yeah. You'd
nice
imagine you would.
experience.
You'd imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like normally when I take photos, I might get one or two out of every 50 that
Yes.
make it to the canvas, that are good enough to paint from. So yeah, I'll take photographs. I'll put them on the laptop and then go through them, pull out the ones that look interesting, and then crop them in different ways, and then print them out. And then when they're printed out, like at any stage of that, they might get rejected. Even even the ones I print out. Like I've got a big stack of printed out images that I go through every once in a while, because there's always something in them that I'm drawn to, something
I know.
to do with the light or the composition that is really interesting. But I have to really, if I'm going to paint it, I have to really think it's really like it a lot.
I know. Of course. Kira Gormley asks a question here. Hi, Francis. Do you have an app to help with the lighting for nighttime photos? I find it hard to take photos in low light.
Yeah. Well, I don't use an app. I bought a phone where I can change the settings manually. I have a Samsung S21, and that has a pro settings where you can change.
Is that one of these things with 3 cameras in it?
It does have the 3 cameras on it, and that's
so
just
it's very fancy then.
Yeah, I decided.
Well, it would need to be. It would need to be for your sort of work.
Well, but this is a new purchase. Before then, I didn't have as many options. But I'm able to change the white balance, the ISO, and the shutter speed. Because the shutter speed, if that's kind of a crucial one at night. If that's at the wrong number, it's very blurry, So and as well, sometimes I'll like a lot of the places I'm going, I don't really want to linger on. I'm kind of passing through, so I might steady the camera off like a lamppost or a wall or something like that, and then take the photo that way. Like trying to find ways of steadying it, because it is hard to.
Would you not bring one of these? I mean, I have one of these stands that are specifically for iPhones or phones.
Yeah, I just kind of like I was saying before. This sometimes I'm walking home from somewhere. I'm not.
You're not going to bring a tripod with you.
Yeah,
out for the night.
Yeah,
that'll be sad.
So it's just I've just kind of over the years gotten better at being able to hold it pretty steady, or just using a lamppost and stuff. And I'll take, if I if I'm at one place that I'm drawn to, I'll take I don't know, 10 photos of it. So hopefully one of them will be not blurry enough,
Yes,
you know.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But
okay.
the and back at the start, I had the camera I had didn't take great quality photos, but I liked that. I liked kind of the visual noise,
Mm.
because then when I printed out the photo, and I was going to paint that, you had to make more decisions about what to include or exclude in the kind of
Mm.
deficiencies of the camera,
Yes,
you know.
yes, I
So there
understand. Yeah.
was I kind of liked the lower quality
Quality, yeah.
um, images in some ways.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got the freedom to do what you want
yeah,
with
yeah.
them.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm not really photographing just to get a high end photograph. You
I
know,
know.
that's just part of the
Yeah, no, I'm
process.
intrigued because you'd imagine with the fineness of your work that you'd be out there with a massive tripod and a sort of a mother and father of a camera that's got all sorts of bells and whistles on it and complicated stuff. But I love the fact that you're actually taking quite a simple approach
Yeah,
to.
sometimes I will use multiple photos as
Hmm,
well if there's some part that I'm unsure of, or I'd like to know more about, or I go back out there and have a look. A lot of
yes.
like, because I'm photographing in the way I do, just
Hmm,
kind of on my way back home from somewhere. Um, a lot of it tends to be not too far from where I live.
yeah.
Like there's
Yes.
around Portobello, Camden Street, I've
Yeah.
painted a lot over the years, you know.
Yeah.
So it's easier for me to go out and check the thing, or I'll be passing by it, and yeah, I'll be able to see
Yeah.
if something that's very indistinct in the image in the photograph, I'll be able to check what it is in real
Yeah.
life if I
Yeah.
want to know
Exactly.
it, you know.
Yeah. And there's plenty around where you are. There's no shortage of inspiration around there.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Tell me, we're going to see a lot of your work, and that's we kind of talk technical stuff about that. But when you're actually painting, I mean, what sort of brushes are you using? What sort of
oh yeah.
paints are you using? And
Well,
surfaces, you know?
yeah. For the larger ones, I paint. I use canvases, and I like to paint on linen. There's
Hmm.
a nice absorbency in linen. But for smaller ones, I paint on plywood now. I cut out the
Do you?
boards to the right size, like this.
You do that yourself?
Yeah, I'll just go
Yeah,
onto my balcony and saw the wood.
good man.
I like, this is a painting I'm doing now, so
Yeah.
I prime it black. It's just
Yes.
started, not much to see in this one yet.
Hmm.
Um, and
And what are
yeah,
you
the
using to
brushes.
prime it? Are you
I
just
use a black gesso
mhm.
primer.
Yeah.
Um, this is the one here.
Okay. Oh, I've
Uh,
heard of golden. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's good. And the brushes I use are very soft ones. They're Richard Oliver ones.
Hmm.
They're quite cheap. I get them in Evans. Yeah, and I kind of go down to the 4-0 size, so
Hmm.
very small, probably
Very
hard.
small. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I can see that. Yes, yes, yes.
disappears in the camera.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's and the paints I use are Old Holland
Mm.
ones. I quite
Yeah.
like them, and I use the sans odor stuff to sometimes thin it a little bit, or just
Mm.
to for the brushes, you know.
Yeah, yeah, very good. Okay, all right. Do you want to show us a little bit around your studio before we go into looking at the?
Sure, there's
Yeah.
not a
No, I
lot
know,
to
but
see.
just
Like
to give
that's
us an
the
idea where you're working.
easel, and
Yeah.
there's where my paints are,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and then just up on the wall are like a couple of canvases stacked up there, and then
Yeah.
paintings that are finished. Like when it gets closer to exhibition time, my walls kind of get filled up with paintings,
Yes.
which is nice.
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
You've got an exhibition coming up in the Molesworth. The Molesworth are your representative, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I've got one in May with them,
May.
so another 3 months.
very good. And are you kind of fixed and ready for that, or do you have quite a few to do?
I keep going right up
Mm.
until I need to get them framed, you know. So I've got about 5 or 6 paintings for that, and two of the large ones
Mm.
are finished for that. So that's kind of good to get them done early and then
Yes.
give them enough time to dry so I can varnish them.
Yeah.
And it takes a little bit of pressure off rather than waiting until near the end. Because with
Yeah.
the large ones, it's a little hard to predict how long they'll take.
Mm.
Because sometimes an area might be more difficult than I anticipated, and it
Sure.
takes a bit
Sure.
longer than
But
expected.
you still got a couple of more paintings to do in order
Oh
to
yeah,
make the
yeah,
full exhibition.
yeah. So I've
Mm.
got 5 or 6 done, and I'd like between 10 and 15,
Hmm.
I'd say. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And do you have a date in
But
May?
it's in May. I think the first Saturday in May is
Is
when
it?
it's opening. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, very good. Very best of luck with that.
Thanks.
Okay, so look, let's look at some of your work and then we can
Yeah,
talk through it.
yeah.
Okay, so you talk us through that.
Well, this is one from maybe about 10 years ago. It's a large enough one, 80 by 100 centimeters, I think.
Hmm.
And it's a Brookvale Road near UCD, around
All right.
Clonskeagh area.
Yeah.
And yeah, one of as well as light, one of the things I quite like is having a depth in the image, and it was I kind of like those compositions that are split in the middle, where there's something up close and something pushed really far
Mm.
back. So that street going back that way, that's goes into darkness and is kind of spotlit by the street light,
Yes.
was something that I was quite drawn to, and the up close this house, kind of the angled perspective and the dissipating light across that
Hmm.
was something I knew would be kind of challenging, but it was a challenge that I was interested in.
Yeah. And sorry, could you mention the size again,
80,
roughly?
I think 80 by 100 centimeters.
Okay, so it's
So
quite big,
yeah.
very big actually. Yeah. And how long would a work like that take you to do, Francis?
I'd say that one took between 4 and 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you say that, are you sort of a 5 or 6 day a week artist? You're, 9 to 5.
Yeah, I kind of am. I'd paint Monday to Friday,
Yeah.
and start. I'm starting earlier now. I'd start maybe around 8 or so and
Okay.
go till 5. But well, yeah. But I'm happy. Some days are more productive than others. I'm happy
Mm.
if, on average, I get between 5 and 6 hours of actually putting paint on the
I know.
canvas in a day. That's
Yeah.
a good day for me. Yeah.
Sure.
And I did try. I wanted to yeah, I was doing Monday to Friday, and those hours because that's when there's better daylight. You know, I
Mm.
prefer
Of
painting by
course.
daylight.
Yeah.
But I did want to kind of start introducing a 4-day working week.
Mm.
So I was trying. That's why when I started to work a little earlier in the day to
Mm.
increase the hours, and ideally I'd prefer kind of Monday to Friday and have
I know.
a longer
Yeah.
weekend.
But you must have breaks during the day.
Oh yeah,
I'd
yeah,
say
yeah,
I mean, doing something as detailed as that, your eyes couldn't cope with
yeah.
doing much more
No,
than an hour at a time or something. Mm.
I do have breaks for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I. That's another reason I kind of I'm happy to be beside a window as well,
Mm.
because I'll regularly look out the window to focus on a distant,
Okay.
yeah, to focus on the distance so my
Yeah.
eyes don't get too tired, because I am
Yeah.
pretty close to it when I'm working on the details, the
Sure.
parts, you know.
Okay. Now we're going to see a time lapse
Yeah.
of your work,
So
and this
this,
is Bow Lane, isn't it?
yeah. So this is another large one, a meter by 1.4 meters, and
Okay.
this I'll start off with the white canvas, and then block in. I'll put a grid on the canvas and a
Hmm.
grid on the photograph,
Yeah.
and then this is kind of working out the perspective and all the blocking in the areas of color, and then I'll move across it in the more detail there.
Yes.
So that first on a large painting like this, that first rough layer where I'm working out perspective and blocking in areas of color, that might take about 4 or 5 days to do. And then this painting took 9 weeks, so the next 8 weeks we're working across the detail layer.
And this is quite a big painting, isn't it?
That one is a large one,
Sorry,
yeah. It's just sitting on my wall there.
Yes, okay, yeah.
But
I'm
drying.
just going to run it again.
Yeah. So yeah, this first stage up to that point is a week, and then every few days I took a photograph here. So that's kind of a few days work each time.
Each frame.
Across. Yeah. Each frame, yeah, it's a couple of days work, and yeah, altogether it was about 9 weeks. But yeah.
Magnificent.
Thanks.
And then this is Camden Place, I think.
Yeah. This is a smaller one, 35 by 45 centimeters, and this was one where there was just I quite liked the elements of the composition in it. This kind of vertical, that curved.
Arch,
the arch and the road marking as well, the curved line of that, and that there was it was quite unusual to have that arched view through there, kind of sitting in the dark area, it was kind of just floating there. Normally that lane is lit up, but I was there on I think maybe like it might have been the 1st of January, so the lights weren't on there. So yeah, no, there was. I quite liked in that one as well, the kind of worn down the yellow lines, the yellow lines. It's kind of it is nice to paint those sorts of shapes.
I know. Seen better days.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is another kind of large one of Camden, Lower Camden Street, and this was part of this one and the previous one were part of an exhibition where I picked a short route between Heytesbury Street and Harcourt Street, and decided to base an exhibition just on that short route. So it goes from like 1-story Georgian domestic buildings to 3-story commercial intersection, to a laneway, to the formal kind of Georgian street of Harcourt Street. So there's lots of variety in that short route, and I made a pair of paintings that where the views are facing each other. So this painting had an accompanying painting kind of across the road looking back this way. There were pairs of paintings all along the route. I liked the idea of having just a fixed place for a full exhibition.
Yes. I was, when we were chatting earlier, I asked you, how come you don't have people there? Are you doing this at sort of 3 a.m. or something? But no.
Sometimes I have done that before as well, but most of the time, if you wait, a few minutes, people then cars and stuff will come by in waves or in groups, Yes. So you'll get a few seconds of a gap between them, and so most of the time, if you wait a little bit, you can get a good
clear
clear view.
Yeah, very interesting. This is Arnott Street.
Yeah, this is close to there as well, just off Heytesbury Street. And this was one where it's natural light, and this was it was good light because it was bringing out kind of textures and materiality of the place, but it was also kind of hiding other details. It was doing quite an interesting thing, the light there. I quite liked all the silhouetted parts, and I like that you can kind of, even though it's all silhouetted and all black at those areas, you can still kind of tell the distance of them. You can still read the depth, even though it's not so explicit.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
And as well as the nocturnal stuff, I have done daytime ones. Maybe one out of every 15 paintings is a daytime one.
Yeah.
And yeah, these two are both daytime ones. I quite
Hmm.
liked, that the low angled sun stretching out and distorting the forms and the shadows.
It's
This
fabulous.
is
Yeah.
Lanark Street.
Hmm.
This was one I quite liked, the that the depth in it, in the top right hand corner. It's not coming from perspective, but from kind of just the relative size of it. So I kind of
Yes.
liked introducing depth in different ways.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
And that the shadows that are present there are things that are out of the frame, and that kind of uh, implication of the greater space is something I like in them.
Yeah. I love that one. I really do. Yeah.
Thanks. Another daytime one. There was
Uh-huh.
just the kind of blinding light off that wall, really strong sunlight, and that's probably as well the camera overexposed that white area. So this is kind of some of the results of this one is coming from the limitations of the camera, which
Yeah.
I liked, and
Yes.
and just the way the dynamics of the reflected light in that enclosed space.
Mm.
I quite liked the difference in textures, the kind of slightly glossy part on the lower end and the matte reflected parts up above. There was a nice variety of textures in it.
Do you ever spot varnish things?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't. And most of the time on these ones, I will. I'll varnish the whole thing.
Mm.
But on the smaller paintings that I'll show in a bit,
Yep.
it's probably the similar effect to spot varnishing. I haven't
Mm.
tried spot varnishing before,
No, yeah,
but
no,
because
no,
there's,
don't, please.
I know.
Not on my account.
um, but in the
Mm.
smaller ones, the acrylic primed area is left exposed, so that's a matte finish, and then the oil painted parts are a more satin or
Ah,
gloss
right.
finish. So you
Yes,
do get a difference in the finish, and it kind of makes it more pronounced, the
I
difference between
understand.
the two areas.
Yeah, I
But that's on the
understand.
smaller ones. On these
Mm.
larger ones, I've only really varnished the full thing. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And yeah, this was another daytime one. It was kind of this was a walkway in
Pier Street, isn't it?
Pierce Street. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was kind of a bit sci-fi looking, and it was kind of
Mm.
minimal. I liked again that angled wall meant that the steps kind of came into that view in an unusual way, and
Yes.
the brightness of the light, like that wall is just all white
Mm.
with this uh, unusual kind of handrail and steps coming into it. There was something about the simplicity of that I
Yeah.
enjoyed. And yeah, I've done a few interiors as well.
Mm.
This is James's hospital,
Mm.
and I like that in this one. You're perceiving the space just from the surface reflections on the wall and floor and
Yes.
ceiling.
Hmm.
So you're not really seeing it from illumination, but from the reflections in the surfaces. So there's something about that I quite liked, and it brought out the textures of the place more as well.
Sure.
And this was another, I mean, in a similar kind of vein of a storage warehouse storage world. And again, yeah, just the most of the perception of the place coming from the reflections in the walls,
Yes.
and the yeah, just the metallic the reflections in the metallic material was interesting.
Now you started to make models.
Yeah, I wanted
Would
to.
you like to show us?
Yep, I'll show you that.
Yeah.
I wanted to do more of these interiors, but it's quite hard to get into these places at night,
Yeah.
to
Yes.
photograph. So I decided.
Sometimes you wouldn't want to go in.
Yeah. I decided to try to make some models and then to photograph that to see if that would if I could get something interesting from that. And this is a model that I made.
Gosh, yeah. Oh, you can
Camera
see
here.
that.
So yeah, So that's kind of view there. So kind of using some of my, like in architecture, you make different types of models all the time. So it's a skill that I kind of learned in there that I'm trying to introduce into it. So I can make that model, change the lighting, change the materials, and photograph it in different ways, and try to use that as a source.
Fantastic.
For the paintings,
Yeah, and what sort of materials would you be using for that sort of model making?
I'll use foam board and acetate, and I've tried a lot of different things, because it's really just the quality of a combination of kind of the texture of it and the surface reflectance that I'm looking at. So I've used kind of different types of wrapping paper in parts as well, because the kind of the reflectance of it and the texture was the right thing that I was looking for. So a lot of the time it's mounting board, card, and I've kind of been keeping my eye out on different materials that might have textures that would work at the right scale.
So you're basically creating your own buildings.
A little bit for these ones, and using mirrors as well. Like this one here has a mirror at the end to extend the corridor.
Sure, yeah.
And the next image was one on an early model that I'd made that had a lot of this one.
So this is actually a model.
Yeah, well, that's a painting from a photograph of the model. So this one had acetate and foam board in it, and mirrors as well. There was a lot of reflectance in this. I want to start introducing more levels of detail in them as well. I think
this is called black box. I think,
it's kind of just because it's in a big black box. So that's why I called it black box.
Okay. All right. Now this is a video, and we're going to see the actual work after the video, I think.
Yeah. So this is the smaller ones that I was talking about on wood. So I put a grade and pencil on them, and I leave I prime the wood black first, put the grid on, and then start painting across, and leave the black parts exposed for the dark parts of the paint of the image.
Yes. Okay. Right. So let's just look at that process.
Yep. It's a short video. And this is of the Inchicore College of Further Education on Emmett Road. I really liked kind of the graphic quality of the composition in this one.
And that's it finished.
Yeah, that's it finished. And it depends. Sometimes the grade is a little more obvious than other times, and I kind of like seeing the grid there, because you're seeing a bit of the process, and
I mean,
at the end,
almost impossible to get that level of accuracy without something that.
But leaving it exposed in these smaller ones as well is I'm happy to do.
I see what you're saying there. What I mean? Yeah.
All right, and on this, and you mightn't even notice it, because the image is maybe jumps out first, but I kind of like that it's subtly still there as well.
Yes.
And in this particular one, I liked what that you're reading the depth, kind of not from perspective, but from the gradations of light that are kind of stepping back on each of those concrete bars, So those, I like that the simplicity of that going on, and it's quite a kind of graphic composition. Sure. And it's purely kind of coincidence that lamppost, that vertical element, happened to be there, lighting it up in that way.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thanks.
This is amazing.
Oh,
this is Donnybrook.
Yeah. This was a kind of an unusual one to do, because it's mostly that tree and road there's not much kind of built form that's painted in it, and I quite like that aspect to it. That kind of middle bar where there's a lot of small shapes that are kind of just sitting in the darkness there, you know. Yeah, this was another one that kind of has a good graphic quality to the composition, and it had two distinct areas: the kind of foreground part that's lit up by that lamppost, and then that part in the background there that has a different color to the light as well.
Yes,
so it kind of
completely.
distinguishes the two parts differently.
Yes.
And up in the top left hand corner, you can kind of see the frames of windows, and I liked that it was just the suggestion of the facades of the building from those small elements, you know.
Yeah, it really wants to drag you in to sort of see these elements that at first view you can't actually work out, you can't see them, and then suddenly you say, wow, look at that, that's a whole row of houses there. This is one I like, and there's a nice story to this, because the neighbor from the red door on the left bought this.
I posted it up on Twitter, and he saw it and got in touch, and now he owns it, which is nice.
I bet he's kicking himself that his door isn't in it.
Could be. But in this one, I quite like that there's 3 distinct areas that you can go, you know. There's that red door, the kind of wet laneway in the middle, or the church on the right, you know. There's kind of you've got options of where you want to go here, you know.
Absolutely. And is this a large piece?
No, that's very small.
Is it?
It's like this size.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's some detail for that size. And tell me, Yvonne has just asked, how long does it take before you can varnish painting typically?
Well, on these smaller ones, I don't varnish those ones. Like on this one, because that's where the exposed primed part is, and then the rest is oil paint. On the larger ones, I like to wait about 6 months. So that one that's on my wall here, it's going to be for the exhibition, so I'll it will be about 6 months of drying time. I've got quite a it's recommended on just from reading, like the spray varnish bottle, that it says to wait 6 to 12 months. You know?
Sure. Oh yeah.
I use quite a thin layer of paint. I think 6 is.
Well, then you wouldn't have to wait so long.
Yeah. I'm happy with 6. Sometimes I've used the temporary varnish that I've forgotten the name of now. But you can use that before. You can use that earlier if you need to. But the finish on it isn't as nice as the proper varnish. You know?
Yeah. So Francis, you just made a comment there. So this sort of shiny part in the middle, the very middle of the reflection, that's actually the base board, is it? It's not just white added.
Oh no, that is white added.
Oh, it is. Sorry. I took you up wrong.
The black part is the primed area. So the whole thing is painted black first. Yes. Then and then I'll paint over that.
Okay. That's a gorgeous painting, I must say.
Thanks a lot. I've always liked kind of trees being lit up by streetlights, and I've wanted to do one for a good while. I just did this maybe 2 years ago, it's a very simple image, but I like the kind of nature and artificial coming in contact. This was another large one. That's the bleeding horse on the right. I kind of like that right in the middle. There's the traffic light there, and there's kind of a few objects that are the street objects that are foregrounded here, kind of lined up in a strange way, you know. And the 2 diagonal lines are kind of making a formal thing out of those objects. But this, with all the large ones, like this is probably a meter by 1.2 meters, and would take, I'd say, took around 8 weeks to do. They'll most of the time, those large ones will have a couple of different areas that are with different textures and different things going on. So there's enough to that every week or two I'm changing what the focus is. There's enough to keep me interested.
Yeah.
Throughout it, you know.
Yeah.
And this was kind of the largest painting I've done, and it took about 10 weeks to do. It's about a meter by 1.5 meters, around that. And again, yeah, there was lots of the variety of light dynamics going on, the different colors and qualities of lights in it were very, they were good and challenging at times to paint, you know.
I can imagine.
It was nice, even like I quite liked that the diagonal lines in the yellow box still. The same line will kind of pass through reflections from different colors of light, from different light sources, you know. So you kind of, if you follow the one line, it will change quite a bit all throughout.
Yellow to blue and
there's something nice in
gorgeous.
that. And then the painting of the spar part, that was quite that kind of a challenge that comes, or you know, an opportunity that comes from the process of photographing the way I do and printing them out. Like the printed image is only a certain size, so I'm blowing it up to a different scale when I'm painting it, you know. So you have decisions to make of what level of detail to include, or you know, there's a few different decisions to make in that part of it.
And this painting now was in the RHA, what, 3 years ago? 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah.
And needless to say, it is sold.
No, and I'm happy that somebody bought it. Yeah.
And in fact, I should say to everyone that all of the work that we're looking at here, except I think the last two, because they're in your forthcoming exhibition, I've been sold. I'm very lucky that there's enough people that want to buy the paintings. It's great. This one is another large one that's going to be in the exhibition that's drying on my wall now. Again, this was one where I liked foregrounding that lamppost. There's a good kind of thickness to it that I enjoyed painting, and I liked the kind of orange source of the light in this, kind of interrupted by those car headlights. It was a nice thing to kind of transition from one light source to the other. And having the two different multiple places to go in the image as well, something I was drawn to, you know. I think it's fair to say that these photographs of your work don't do justice to the actual. I think when you see the actual paintings, as I have, because a friend of mine owns one of your paintings, it is just extraordinary when you see it in the flesh.
They're hard to photograph, just because with especially a large one and with so much dark.
Well, it depends how much you're the individual who's watching, how light their the backlight of their screen is.
You know.
I think this is the last one.
This was the one I showed the video of.
That's right.
And this was a place that I had gone back to again and again over years to photograph. I quite liked this lane, just the way that wall at the end was angled, so it kind of gives you that little turn. I went back a lot of times to photograph it, and I happened to be walking by at a different time of the day, and the light was coming in that way, and just reflected in so many different ways on so many different surfaces. There's a lot going on with the light.
Would you have revisited that during the process of actually painting? Or would you have done that work before you even start? You know what I mean? When you say that you visited a number of times.
Oh no, this was a place that I'd wanted to paint, but I didn't have a photograph that was good enough to paint from.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a photograph of it that kind of captured it in a way that made me want to paint it, you know. So this was the time that I finally did get an image that made me want to paint it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no. And I didn't really need to go back to this one so much after I'd photographed it, because there was enough. The level of detail in the photographs was what I was looking for.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
But it's one that I would cycle by on my way into town anyway, so I do see it regularly. Yeah. And because it happened to rain, I think earlier that day. The wetness of the street. And
then the sun coming out.
And the sun coming out. There's a lot of. It gives a lot of variety to the textures and reflections.
Now I'm just going to look at. There's a few comments I'm going to read out before we continue the chat. Okay. Jen Donnery says, "Hi Francis. Do you have a specific theme or title in mind when you're working towards an exhibition?"
That's it's hard. Titling is hard. Like I've gotten into the last good few years just titling the paintings just after the street that they're on. And for exhibitions, it can be tricky. Sometimes I am thinking about certain things, and then I'll come up with a title that I think is suitable for it. Or sometimes it's a very simple title, like the one of the exhibition I described before of that route.
That's what I was thinking.
It covered 6 different streets, so the exhibition was called 6 Streets. So it's not not very imaginative, but it was kind of
factual.
Yeah. But a more recent exhibition, I was thinking of different things about like in art. There's a figure and ground is a way you see things. You differentiate depth between the figure and the ground of things, and in architecture there's they talk about solids and voids in designing space as well. So I the last exhibition was called Figure and Void, which is kind of a combination of those two things.
Yes. Okay. Right. Anna Kennedy says, "Hi Francis, do you use a specific color palette that you stick with?"
There's colors that I use quite a lot, and that's they come up a lot again and again. Probably.
Are there any colors you don't use?
I wouldn't use a lot of like the lesser used colors would be blues and greens.
I was thinking of blues. Yeah.
Like this is my palette at the
lovely.
moment.
Okay.
So not very clean, but there's definitely more types of oranges and yellows in there. You know, they're more useful.
And do you use black, or do you mix?
I do use black.
To make a black.
I tried. There were a few paintings where I was mixing to make a black, and that was good to do. But it was I did more recently just go back to using black again.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks for that. Thanks, Anna, for the question. Eilish says, "Fascinating process with the models." Yeah, the fact that you're making these.
Yeah, no, I'm enjoying that recently, and hopefully, I will keep doing it and see where it goes.
Yes. Brenda McCann, who was on recently, says, "Very nice, interesting work. Love the inversion that you paint from the photograph or from photography, yet the painting looks photographic."
Okay, yeah. No, thanks very much.
And Yvonne says, "I like the way your work doesn't remind me of Hopper's night scenes. They are brilliantly unique." This is interesting. They are brilliantly unique and original, with such variety of different color palettes and such amazing detail. I will definitely visit your exhibition.
Oh, thanks.
Remember
very
that,
much.
folks. May, Molesworth Gallery. Now, I suppose that's an appropriate time to ask you, who's your favorite artist?
Well, no, I know I wouldn't say he's my
No.
favorite, but one that I do quite like Hopper. When you asked, yeah, what if I
Yeah.
was to have one painting at home?
Mhm.
This one of his I quite liked because it's an unusual composition, kind of spread out to the edges of
Yeah.
places to go, and I liked that the shadow of at the bottom of the image is parallel to the bottom, rather than the wall being parallel to the bottom of the painting. The shadow is so it's kind
Yes.
of changing
Oh, yes, I
the
see what
level
you
of
mean.
importance.
Yeah.
What's more important, like the light or the
Yeah.
space in it, So I
Right.
kind of liked that in that particular image. But on a different day, I could have picked Goya or Francis Bacon, or
I
there's a lot
know.
of other people like, and as well, I mentioned before about
Yeah.
that Fra Angelico one that's in that monastery in San Marco, and this like just more the interesting compositional things going on in this one between
Mm.
the fresco and the recessed window and the arched ceiling. So
Yes.
if I was to have that one, I'd have to have the whole wall, I think.
I know. I know. Okay. So Morland says, I love your work. How do you get the rain, so wet ground, to look so perfect? That's because he's a genius as well.
It's really when I'm painting it, I'm really looking uh, very close at the photograph, and I'm just painting kind of shapes of colors, so sticking quite closely to breaking it down in the photograph, rather than thinking about it as a wet street, but more
Mm.
thinking about it as these shapes of colors that are blended into each other to different
Yeah.
degrees,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you're really focusing on the small elements, yeah, and then the end
Okay.
result, it
Sure.
does look that way.
Yeah. Tim Goulding says, I particularly love the compositions, reminiscent of classic still life painting coupled with the detail of Richard Este. Is that,
Yeah,
have I
yeah,
pronounced
yeah,
that
yeah.
correctly? New York work.
Hmm.
Above all, I like the treatment of the road in all of these works. Just astounding. Seeing the extraordinary in the ordinary.
Thanks very much. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No,
nice.
that's very nice to say. Yeah, like I do like
Yeah.
taking mundane subject matter
Yeah,
to
no, no,
focus on.
absolutely.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
great point. Malachi Heffen says, Hi, Francis. We'll never look down a dark alley in the same way again. Awesome work.
Thanks very much.
And Josephine says, thinking about recent events on relatively early nighttime streets, I wonder if you addressed the issue that a woman artist might not be able to access the same subject matter with the same freedom you do. Fair
Yeah,
question.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
it's a point well made, but do you know what? Even fellas out in the night, like in certain places, you wouldn't want to be there
yeah,
either,
yeah.
you know.
I do move on quickly. Luckily, nothing has happened over the years I've been out photographing, but it is, yeah, no, I'm very lucky to be able to do it for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Catherine says, Francis, you have an extraordinary talent. The urban landscape is your thing. But just
Thanks very
curious,
much.
have you ever painted landscape nocturnes? I'm thinking of Whistler's Thames paintings.
I haven't. Probably in part because this is what I'm surrounded by. I
Mm.
live in Portobello, so this is what I'm more see every day, and I photograph more. I haven't. Yeah, I haven't photographed the outside of the city much at night.
Mm. Mm.
It could be interesting to try for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to allow everyone to come in now and ask questions in person, but I'll just finish if you don't mind. Sorry if I've left anyone out. Anna Kennedy says, thanks so much for this morning, Francis. You were actually my favorite artist.
Oh,
Well, do you
thanks
know
very
why she's
much.
saying that? Is because she owns one of yours.
Okay.
And I know Anna very, very well. So
Thanks.
that's
A
where I
lot.
saw it. Comment, warning, night photography is fascinating, but can be dangerous. The rule is don't photograph on your own. You become a special interest to muggers if you have an expensive camera. Well, that's true. But you see, that's why Francis goes around with his, iPhone or Samsung.
Yeah.
You have an expensive phone, you might get mugged, robbed, as well as losing your camera mobile. Always go in groups. Females particularly vulnerable, Francis. Brilliant paintings. Yeah, no, Dennis, point point made. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. You do
no,
need
for
to be
sure. Yeah,
careful, and you need
yeah,
to know where you are. And you know, in fairness,
yeah,
Francis knows that area inside out and upside down and any other way. So he does have an advantage in that he's not exactly in virgin territory. He knows exactly where he is.
Can I just ask him,
Yes, Maureen.
what's his opinion on graffiti? People putting graffiti, does he feel that it's making a mess of the walls, or do you think there's a time and place for it, given that none of his pictures seem to have captured graffiti in his paintings?
Yeah.
I have painted walls that have graffiti on them as well, you know. Just the ones that I showed today, yeah, they mustn't have had any. Yeah, no, I think it can be good, and it can be just really not very good, not creative or inspiring to me anyway, you know. I do enjoy painting walls that have some graffiti on them. It's just nice forms to paint, like physically. It's just an enjoyable. I do enjoy. I probably enjoy more if purely painting wise, the stuff that isn't the large scale mural things, you know. But I think they can be. I do enjoy them in the street at times, you know. Yeah, no, I'm kind of mixed on graffiti.
So are you saying right painting in the right place when it comes
Yeah.
to walls?
Yeah, for me, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Thanks, Morland.
Well, hi, Francis. That Hopper painting you showed reminded me of something that he once said. He said, all I ever wanted to do was paint sunlight on a wall.
Okay, yeah, I think he did as well in that one. Yeah, no, sunlight on a wall is it's great.
I did see a bit of graffiti in one of those paintings. I can't remember which one. Tiny little bit, yeah.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Ones of daylight that I showed, there was like a car on the corner and the door and stuff. There was a little bit of graffiti on the wall. Yeah, I suppose one thing that like for the paintings that I like about graffiti is kind of just that it shows human occupation or activity, you know. So any small elements that have that show that people have been there, I'm kind of interested in as well.
I can't wait to see these in person. I mean, you know, you have to see them. You really do. Yeah.
Thanks very much. Yeah,
there's an excuse to come up to Dublin, Tim.
Yeah, good excuse.
After your exhibition in March, of course.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Down in the Molesworth Gallery.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
wonderful work. Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Margie says, many thanks. You have amazing patience, she says.
Thank you.
So, Francis, what is in store for you for the future? Where do you want to be? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Magic wand time. Magic wand.
Well, it would be nice to go to other cities and stuff as well to photograph them. Yeah. Just because there's different qualities of light, different types of architecture, and yeah, I've done a little bit of that in the past. I've done a few paintings from being in Venice and a few from London. So it has. I've done it a little bit, but it would be nice to try that some more and to kind of
Venice would be fabulous.
Yeah, no, Venice at night is great. Yeah.
And you've done that?
Yeah.
So you were really showing us all the very recent work rather than work going back a while.
I could have shown more of Venice as well. I've only got maybe 5 paintings of Venice, so not loads. Okay. And that's very kind of, it's like a film set at night, you know. Even the quality of the sound there's an artificial or unusual quality to it there.
Sure.
Going to different places and kind of getting more into the model making as well. I'm going to explore that more, and it would be nice to show in a gallery outside of Ireland as well. That would be a goal at some point. It would be great.
Very good. Yeah. Well, look, it's been fascinating talking to you. Your work is extraordinary, and I can't wait to see your exhibition because I've only seen that one particular work that Anna owns. But, you know, boy, would I love to see some more. So really looking forward to that. And when the time comes, we'll give it a bit of a plug as well, just so that I can remind people who are listening today that it's on, okay? And I'll do the same with other people also. But look, thank you so much. That was really, really interesting. Thank you for your time. You put a lot of effort in getting all these photos together and so on for us, and I really do appreciate that.
No, that's great. Thanks for asking me to do it.
Not at all.
Happy to share the work. Yeah,
you're very good. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, folks. So look, that's it. Next week, Michael Harding, the writer, has confirmed that he will be able to do the gig, because, as you know, he had a detached retina and had some surgery done. So he's over that, thankfully, and he's going to join us next Saturday live. So do join me then. Thank you again for joining us today, and thank you, Francis, again. That was wonderful. See you
Thanks
soon.
very much.
Hopefully meet in person too. Certainly, we will at your exhibition anyway. All right.
And thanks for all the comments there and just reading through them. Thanks
Absolutely, yeah. There's some great comments there. Colin Eaton, fascinating insight. Thank you. Great work. That was the last one.
Okay.
All right. Cheers, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks a million.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Malachy, thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.